kitchen and we are making some food. None of this that we're going to do is supposed to be any sort of revelation when it comes to cooking. It's just supposed to be taking something that is readily available, that can be kind of plain or normal. And we have a phrase, don't cheat yourself. There are ways to get gorgeous with every single thing that you can cook. And so we're going to have a few examples of these, and we're going to start today with brownies. Now, what we have with the brownies is we're going to make a double batch. We have Pillsbury Zero Sugar Brownie Mix. Still can be awesome, still going to taste good. There may be skeptics as far as how good can a sugar-free product be, but it's not much of a sacrifice. In fact, you don't really even taste any sort of difference, and it allows you to eat literally everything else that you want every other meal if you just eliminate added sugar. So I do. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to step off camera for a second. First thing, don't even really have to do this with the way we're going to cook it. It's going to fall out anyway, but got a slightly oversized pan for the brownies. I'm just going to spray it real quick, do it outside, come back in and set it down. Pan sprayed up now and it'll be ready when the batter is prepared. Earlier today, I had made zero sugar classic yellow cake mix. I had made cupcakes with it, and this is the zero sugar creamy supreme chocolate fudge. Here is why it's a little different, and we're going to do the same thing with the brownies. If you look at the instructions, all you need, they say, is a 1/3 cup of oil. We ain't using oil, we're using butter, and we're using the good stuff, all right? So a 1/3 cup of oil is going to be 5 1/3 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to use that. Sea salted, extra creamy butter. Make sure you use the salted stuff. It then says 3 tablespoons of water. We're not going to use the most boring liquid on earth. We're going to use at least milk, if not half and half, but about heavy whipping cream. All right, don't cheat yourself. It's an easy choice to make. You're at the grocery store anyway. Use heavy whipping cream instead of all the way down at water. Now, I want to bring up those cupcakes. The reason I showed them there is because the directions call for 1 egg per box. I'm either doubling the 3 tablespoons of water. That's going to be 6 tablespoons of the heavy whipping cream. The 1/3 cup of oil, we're actually going to use double that amount of butter. We're doubling it. We're using a better ingredient. We're making it a lot more tasty and indulgent and all this stuff, except not the eggs. And the reason is because eggs make things big and fluffy and smooth and perfect and huge. That's cake. That's not what we want here. Brownies are supposed to be kind of ugly and bumpy and crumbly and imperfect, and so we're not doubling the eggs. The eggs would actually take it in a cake direction, and that's not what we're after. So the first thing we're going to do now is get the butter starting to melt, and then you kind of create a mixture with the brownie mix to sort of bring down the temperature of everything else. When you add the butter, it doesn't clump back up. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to show what we're doing in just a second. So we've got our butter, instead of the oil, kind of sliced up a little bit. Going to put it in the microwave, get a little bit of a melt on that, while we then start mixing everything else up together so that we can add the butter without having it clump. Start that right now. As well as, here's one of those other steps to make something turn out a little bit better than maybe normal if you have the option. You have a convection baking option. Always use the convection baking versus regular baking if you do have that option. Just cooks it a whole lot better. And so we're going to set the convection baking to 325 as we're melting the butter. We're now going to add both boxes, again, double batch of the brownie mix. All of this translates from the cakes to the brownies and back, except for the eggs that you use. But everything else, just get as gorgeous as you can with it. Costs a little bit more, but not a whole lot more. And it really makes a big ton of difference. So now I have the oven preheating on the convection setting. If you got it to 325. we're about to try some of these when we get the brownies in the oven as well, and we're going to add the other ingredients now. First thing they call for, again, is the 3 tablespoons of water. We're using heavy whipping cream instead. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll go 1 tablespoon extra for each box. Dip into there, get all of it. And that part is complete. Back into the fridge. Alright, the next part. We have the butter. Still doing its thing a little bit. Gonna melt that a little bit more. Crack some eggs. Drop them in. Easy peasy. Boom. Bring all of that together to get that temperature right before we add the butter. So, one of the big differences again, when you're doing cake, you want it to be big and fluffy and smooth and perfect and beautiful. That ain't brownies. So take your time and let it be a little grungy. That's perfectly fine. But what you don't want to do is use like a blender or a hand mixer or anything like that, because you will over mix it and then it will be cake, and that's just a whole different thing. All of the cupcakes that I made earlier today have been frosted. Not well, but they're been frosted, and they're going to taste wonderful. We're going to taste test those once we get the brownies in the oven, and this is the last step. All right, so we have the butter, pretty good job there, mixed up. We're going to pour it in, blend it into the rest of the brownies, and then it goes in the pan with some walnuts, at least on half of it, because you have to be courteous, and something on walnuts. And so then it will be time to bake. So just going to blend the butter into the brownie mix, into the pan, and then into the oven. I can't out without embarrassing myself more. So this is about as full as it's going to get, and now it goes in the oven for about-ish 27, 28 minutes, and then we'll have some scrumptious desserts with no sugar in it. In the oven you go. Bella, set a timer for 28 minutes. Any sort of revelation sort of cooking, you just take something that exists and is readily available and you make it a lot better by not including any sugar, but just up the ingredient content. So we've got some of the Pillsbury zero sugar yellow cupcakes with zero sugar chocolate fudge icing. And you won't believe it. Eat as many as you want. No diabetes in your life. Yum, yum, yum.
Rate it.
Wonderful. Do what?
Rate it 1 through 10.
Cupcake is about a 9 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
The frosting, it comes as is. The application of it's a little chunky, a little uneven, not as consistent as it could be. But overall, sugar-free brownie, or excuse me, cupcake that you'd never know is, yeah, I'm going 9 out of 10 on this one. Probably need a little bit more time. We'll do that toothpick thing. We all know the toothpick thing, right? Mm-hmm. Let's do the toothpick thing.
Her.
Okay, let's do it over here. Toothpick thing. Everybody say ho. If you pay the licensing fee, Graceland will let you have anything with Elvis's name on it. So we're about to flip the brownies now. We're gonna see how this goes. These are gonna be wonderful. These are gonna be wonderful. These are gonna be wonderful. Ready?
Are you doing another flip?
Yes. I don't want to break it. Ready? I did it. These are gonna cool, and in about 10 minutes, it's gonna taste as good as any skillet, brownie, fudge, gooey, melty thing you get in a restaurant. I promise you, it ain't 1 gram of sugar, and it's gonna be awesome. All right.
What's the rate?
It's too hot.
Hot to the party?
It's too hot, but it's good.